Well, hello, Crossway Community Church family. Matt and Bob coming to you again, and we just wanted to put together a little bit of a video here to talk through some of the checklist and guidelines that we are making available to you as we get ready to start back up on our in-person worship services. And these aren't guidelines that Bob and I just decided to dream up. They don't teach you about these in seminary, but these are actually so that we can actually meet. They follow the CDC and Governor's Office guidelines for the state of Texas for in-person worship services. And so we've taken those and modified them for our church, and we just wanted to walk through those at this point. If you're watching this video, you also should have received a document of the checklist that we're going to walk through. And so if you have that, you can follow along with us here. But just want to make you aware of a few things. Some of this may seem obvious now that we've been going through COVID-19 for quite a while, but maybe some of it's not. But obviously, if you or anyone in your family has been sick or running a fever, we ask you not to participate in our live worship service, but to stay home. And we will not be, I know some churches, Bob, we've seen are doing actual temperature checks at the door. We won't be doing that. But if you want to take your temperature before you come, that'd be great. But we won't be doing that. So we're kind of leaving it to you to just make sure if you're sick, you stay home. Secondly, just because it's been said also by all of these guidelines and as well as the medical professionals, if you fall into any high-risk group, whether that's based on age or medical condition, whatever it might be, we encourage you, if you're not comfortable, to stay home and to participate in service via live stream. So we will have a live stream available for you to participate that way as well. We will be practicing social distancing, which seems to be the new norm for all of us now, that we're learning to live with the entire time we're at our worship service, trying to stay 6 feet apart as the guidelines suggest at all times while we're in the building. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Bob, or...
I think when we actually walk people through the building, they'll be able to see, too, how we've had the chairs set up and that sort of thing, how that we're going to make that possible for people, so it won't be that difficult.
Yeah, and we will be, one of the changes we will be making to our order of services, we will be foregoing the fellowship time as well.
That's right.
Just to try and practice that social distancing, and we'll talk about that more in a moment in this next bullet here, which is that as hard as it's going to be, as excited as we all are, I know Bob and I are just so anxious to see everybody. Trust me, if we have to continue to preach and talk to as Bob says, a flashing green light on the camera, I think we're both about done with that. So we'll be excited to see you, but we are going to ask you to just greet each other verbally and not to, or to refrain, I should say, from handshaking or hugging as we gather again.
You know, Matt, I think it's important, too. We understand that people have a wide range of opinions on this, and we get that, and so everybody's an expert these days. Everybody has their thoughts on it. But here again, we want to be respectful. Romans 13 talks about, obeying the government. Romans 14 talks about, being mindful of those maybe who are weaker faith. It's portrayed in that way. And then, Romans 15 talks about, just not just thinking of yourselves, but loving others as Christ loved us. And so I think here again, let's just really be respectful of each other in this regard. It's so easy in this situation to assume that everybody thinks just like you. And if I've discovered anything during this time, that is not the case. And so let's just, here again, be very thoughtful of one another in this regard and follow these guidelines as we go along. If we are able to maybe let up on these a little bit, we'll do that. But for now, these are the guidelines we're going to follow. Matt actually heard a story from one of his pastor friends here the other day that I think really helps kind of illustrate what we're trying to talk about here.
Yeah, so it was actually another church that's actually started back up on service, and I just had a chance to visit with this pastor to see what went well, what they learned. And, one of the things he shared just on this very topic of refraining from hugging and handshaking is he just said people were so excited to see each other. And then as Bob said, for some people who just maybe they don't think this COVID thing's a real issue, which is hard to kind of understand now for some of us, but some people do feel that way, and they think it's no different than anything else. And I think, that's great. But there's other people that don't feel that way. And I think one of the things that we want to do in the church is to, as Bob said, look to the interests of others. And so the story that got shared was that there was an elderly lady who got put in a really awkward position by a few people that came up to hug her. And it was out of a heart of love, but she did not feel comfortable doing that. It put her in a really awkward position. And she basically has decided she will no longer attend in-person worship services because she really feels it puts her at risk. And so I think that's where, Bob was just mentioning, you may feel completely comfortable, but others may not. And so we're just trying to refrain. We won't do the fellowship time, ask you just to greet each other verbally so you don't put anybody in that awkward position that may not think like you do.
That's right.
So anyway, that is one change that we will have. Here's some other protocol changes just to walk you through. So rather than the front doors just being open and the office doors being open for whenever you arrive, we will actually open the doors at 10 o'clock, and the only door that you will be able to enter are the front doors by the auditorium, and those will be propped open for you at 10 o'clock sharp. And so no one will have to touch the doors as they come in or any of the doors in the building. They'll all be propped open. But we ask you to, when you arrive, doors will be open at 10 for you to enter into the building. And when you come in, one of the things that you'll see is we will have some social distancing markings on the floor there in the foyer, just in case a lot of people arrive at one time, just so we social distance, as we talked about in the building. But there will be a check-in table in the entry foyer. And we'll have hand sanitizer there that we ask everyone just to cleanse your hands before you come into the auditorium. And then there will also be masks available. Now, as you see later on in the checklist, masks are not required, but they are recommended according to CDC and state guidelines. And I think the only thing I'd say to that is just so you know, for those watching the video who maybe think masks aren't helpful or you don't like wearing them, and that's fine. Like I said, they're not required. There will be people who have decided to come who will be wearing a mask.
That's right.
And so wearing a mask is not a political statement. Wearing a mask doesn't mean that you're not a believer or you're weak in the faith. In some ways, it may just be a sign that you're loving your neighbor.
That's right. That's a good observation, Matt.
And so I just, be mindful of that. There are people that do want to wear masks.
That's right.
So masks will be made available in case you want one, but they're not required. But also at this entry foyer table, we'll ask you to check in your family. So one of the other things that you should be receiving soon will be a Sign Up Genius invite, where we'll be asking you to basically reserve your spot. Because as it says here, we will have assigned seating. And so what we'll do is make sure to socially distance everyone out. We need to know who's coming. And then we'll set up basically all the chairs in an assigned way by pods with social distancing within the building. And so we just want to check you in to make sure that we know you're here. Obviously, if we have visitors come or maybe you have somebody extra that you didn't know was coming, we'll do our best to accommodate, but we'll just have to rearrange.
Mm-hmm.
So just so you know, that's what you'll be doing at the entry table. Once you've checked in, you've sanitized your hands, and if you want a mask, you grab one, that's fine. Then you'll come to the entry doors of the auditorium, where an usher will actually show you where your assigned seating is for you and or your family. And we'd ask you to go right to your assigned seating area rather than mingle and congregate as people are coming in the building.
That's right, yeah. Time for visiting afterwards outside the building, but when you come in, just go right to your chair.
Yeah. So please just make sure that you're aware of that, because it will be a major change for all of us as we kind of walk through this. The other thing we would ask is not only as you come in the building to the entry table to check in and then you go to the usher to be seated in your assigned area, but we'd ask for all children to stay with their parents at all times. So we just don't want people running around the building. We're going to try and keep everything pretty well locked down, but if kids could stay with their parents, that would be terrific. And the other thing that we would say that it mentions here is if you have to go to the restroom, we would ask you to go through the auditorium. So if you're in the auditorium, you can go through the back door, and we'll walk through this in a separate video we'll have a little fun with. But if you can walk through the side door in the back of the auditorium, go to the restroom that way, and then come back through the main doors, just so we keep a flow of traffic for people coming in, that would be great. Finally, and Bob, you can tell me if I'm missing something here, but finally, we will also be dismissing a little bit differently. Rather than just a general dismissal and blessing, we will have our blessing, and then we'll actually dismiss by areas or by assigned seating just to kind of control the flow of traffic. And then what we'd ask people to do, again, rather than visiting in the auditorium area or congregating in the entryway once you exit the auditorium doors, that you'd actually go outside, and then we can social distance there and visit as much as you're comfortable with, but just to try and follow all the CDC and state guidelines.
Right.
That's our hope. So I think that's kind of a good walkthrough.
Yeah.
Is there anything we missed or that you want to?
No, I think we pretty well covered it. And folks, don't let it overwhelm you. And let me just encourage you, here again, by the grace of God, this is all just temporary. And so let's be kind to one another and give each other grace in this regard. And let's not lose our sense of humor. And I just want to say to you as well, I mean, I've heard from other churches and some of the things they're doing, really trying to stick with this. I mean, we're laying all this out, but we're not going to try to police this. I mean, we're just not going to do that. That's not going to be our attitude here. We're just asking you to participate and cooperate, and we'll do this as long as we feel like it's necessary, and if we hear otherwise. So let's just keep our sense of humor and be kind to one another, and we'll get through this, and look back someday and maybe be able to laugh about it. But for right now, that's the way we're going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So, and speaking of laughing about it, we're going to end this video, and I think they're going to strap a GoPro to me, which should be hilarious, and I'm going to kind of walk you through what to expect. So let the laughing begin now. So anyway, we look forward to seeing you guys. Check out the guidelines and look for that Sign Up Genius to sign up.
Amen.
God bless you guys. Okay, Crossway Community Church family, I have now been put in the GoPro position. So we are outside of the building and just kind of give you a quick walkthrough of what to expect when you arrive next Sunday for our in-person worship services. As you can see, we'll pretend it's 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, and the doors are open for me, so I don't have to touch anything as I come into the building. One of the other things that you'll notice when you come in is on the floor, you will notice that we have some social distance markings that are set up along the floor. And so if you have other people that maybe would be in the entry foyer as you arrive, you can simply just go to one of those social distancing markings and wait your turn to get to the check-in desk that you can see up ahead. And so if no one's here, then of course you can go right on into the check-in desk where we'll have somebody there to greet you. You'll notice here that the book nook is going to be closed, so no book table here for a while, but you'll see that we have our desk here that we can check in. We've got some masks that are there if you would like to use one of those, and we'll have some hand sanitizer as well. And just as a reminder, this is also where someone will check you in based on your online reservation you made with Sign Up Genius. So you'll do all that right here. Once you've checked in, you've sanitized your hands, grabbed a mask if you want one, then you can make your way into the auditorium area. And again, you'll notice that the doors both will actually be propped open when you arrive on Sunday. And you have an imaginary greeter that will be here to meet you and come in, and they will actually have a seating chart area to be able to walk you in. So Bob here is showing you that we will have you can see the auditorium, how it's set up on this one side. We'll have little pods set up that are social distance, and then you'll have names on the back of those chairs, so I can go right to the area that's marked for me and my family. And we'll ask, as I said, when you come in to immediately go to that seating area, and then you can join the worship service and be prepared, ready to go in your area. So that's kind of a view of what things will look like in the auditorium. And there you see Rodney in the back. He is social distancing and practicing something back there. So then, if I'm in service, like I said, and for some reason I have to use the restroom, again, if your children have to go, make sure you take them with you. But I'd simply, instead of going through the auditorium doors, which I know a lot of folks do, we ask you to come back here by Rodney, wave at him, and go to the back door. And you'll see here by the back door that we have a sign up that says, please exit through this door for the restroom. So if you go through that door, go to the back, you can use the restroom, and then you'll actually come back around the building to the main entry doors again when you check back in. So we will have this all set up based on how many people are coming, social distancing set up, pods for each individual or family, and we hope you'll be able to join us next Sunday as we worship the Lord together in person. So until then, bye to Randy, to Bob, and to Rodney. All right, guys, God bless.